My pleasure to introduce someone who a lot of you already know, David and David Fiala, and they were able to bring their two children, Vasek and Emma. So it's wonderful to have all of you, all the way from Slovakia. Is that right? Yes. So wonderful presentation for us. So let's join in welcoming them, please.
He is risen.
He is risen indeed.
And that means we have a story. We have good news. We have something to share. Come in, find a seat, please, please. This is why we're in mission. This is what it's all about. If Jesus were not raised from the dead, we may as well just stay at home. This is why we do what we do. My name is David Fiala, and I'm a missionary from the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. This is my wife, Radka, and our two kids, Vasek and Emma. And as we go through the presentation, they might just chime in. So be ready for that. Welcome, come in. The name of our presentation this morning is From Historic to Tangible. And what does that mean? What does that mean? What's going on in mission in Central Europe? Have any of you in the room traveled to Central Europe? Show of hands. I know 2 back there, 3, definitely 4. Thank you. Some of you were even on mission teams. Some of you came to just meet people and see what things are about. Thank you for coming. Anybody else, Central Europe? What do you guys know about Central Europe? Oh, wait a minute, there's 3 people over here who probably know a lot more than I do. Did you guys raise your hands?
Emma raised.
Good job, Emma. Good job. Well, what we do in Central Europe as missionaries of the Missouri Synod is make connections. And we're going to talk about these connections in the presentation today. And here we are, just in case they weren't happen to be here. This is where we are in Central Europe. As LCMS knows it, is Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. Central Europe, as the world knows it, extends a little bit higher, a little bit lower, a little bit further east. But this is where we are working in Central Europe. And you may wonder, what do we do there? What does it look like? What sort of ministry is taking place? Is anybody here a visual spatial learner? Okay, this slide is for you. This is the footprint. This is where we have been, by the grace of God, since 2008, when Radka and I transitioned from volunteers to called missionaries. We lived down here originally when we showed up in Slovakia in 2005. We were in one location teaching in a school religion and English to Slovak high school students. Did that for 3 years, and we were asked to see if we could grow LCMS's presence in a larger 4-country area. And you can see what that has looked like since 2008. The end point of each of those arrows represents LCMS presence in this part of the world, either through theological educators, geo-missionaries, and you guys know what geo-missionaries are, right? They're globally engaged in outreach for 1 to 2 years. They serve in schools, they teach English, they build relationships, they proclaim the gospel in this part of the world. Or short-term teams. We've got a short-term team alumni right here. She was in Poland a couple summers ago. It's nice to see you here. We have this enormous mission statement for the Eurasia region, which is the region in which I serve, which includes all of Europe plus former Soviet Asia. And it's such a long mission statement, I can't put the whole thing on a PowerPoint slide. But this is the highlight. Reconnecting people to their Christian heritage. People go, why do we send missionaries to Europe? Isn't that, where our church came from? We came from Europe to America. Why are we sending missionaries that way? Isn't that a Christian continent? Aren't there Christians there already? Well, yes, there are Christians there. There are many Christians there, in fact, who are Christians culturally. They're Christians on paper. They're Christians because my mom's a Christian. She was baptized. I was born, then I was baptized a Lutheran. I'll probably go to the church again when my brother gets married, and then I'm sure I'll have a Christian burial. But yes, I'm a Christian, I'm a Lutheran. That doesn't sound too seriously committed to the gospel. That doesn't sound as though you're hearing the Word of God proclaimed often in a Sunday morning service. What we're hoping to do is work together with the Lutheran churches that already exist in these 4 countries and reconnect people to the living Word by proclamation of the gospel. This is what we do. We reconnect, which makes sense because here we are in St. Louis right now doing a reconnect. And it's our role in Central Europe to be connecting. So we're trying to connect lots of things. So the historic connections actually start for us 1529, 1530. Who knows what happened 1530? Anyone? This funny little thing called the Augsburg Confession. You guys are familiar with that, right? This is part of our history. This is also part of the history of these church bodies. This is the historic connection we share with our brothers and sisters in Christ in Central Europe. They adhere to the Augsburg Confession and the Book of Concord, as do we. We may have differing opinions these days about practice and what we do as Lutheran Christians. Well, they don't even call themselves Lutherans. They call themselves Augsburgians. Because these church bodies with whom we work are usually called the Evangelical Church of whatever country, of the Augsburg Confession. This is our historic connection. And this is what we try to build on. Also in Central Europe, you're aware of historic reality, recent historic reality. What ended in 1989? The Berlin Wall came down. What really ended for these countries, which are not so connected to Germany, was the end of communism. From the end of World War II until 1989, there was an oppressive regime in power that basically persecuted and slowed down the progress of the church. In 1989, the doors opened literally for the world to come into Central Europe, and the world did come in. The secular world came in like a floodgate. The Christian world also came in. This is, by the way, when LCMS first started sending missionaries back to this part of the world, as soon as they could. I've got notes from a meeting that took place in Bratislava, Slovakia in 1991, when a representative of President Bolman, together with other members from our Synod, went to Slovakia and met with the then General Bishop and said, "We haven't seen you guys for a while. Is there anything we can do together?" And the people in Slovakia said, "Yes, we would like Sunday school curriculum. We would like English teachers. We would like you to come here and talk about who Jesus is." Imagine 40 years of communism. Just think of all the boxes that are packed with that much history. And today, 20 years later, they're slowly unpacking these boxes. And they're asking the question, what does it mean to be a Lutheran? What does it mean to be an evangelical Augsburgian? We've had freedom for many years. We've got some good answers to these questions. We hope that we are connecting good answers to these questions to these friends of ours in this part of the world. So these are the 4 countries where we're at. Czech Republic, you see the nice tricolored flag over on this side, Poland to the north, Slovakia with the double-barred cross, and then Hungary to the south. We're not partners. We're not an altar and pulpit fellowship with any of these churches. What we do there is limited. But because we know the boundaries of what we can do, that is what we do. We do not engage in worship together, in communion services together. This is not what we do. I do not stand up in a pulpit and preach. I'm not a pastor. I'm a DCE. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator. My subject area is theology. This is a nice place for me to be with this particular education and background. Central Europe works. And what we're doing in this part of the world is just that, what we can. Let's take a look at the GEO missionary program over the past couple years. Now you see some statistics over here. Now this is since 2008. We do not have 9 GEO missionaries in Slovakia today. This is since 2008. And if you look at the numbers beneath, this is the total number of years of service that have taken place. So over here in Slovakia, We've had 9 geo-missionaries who have served a total of 11 and a half years, which means we've had geo-missionaries who have stayed for longer than a year. Look at Hungary. Wow. We've got some longevity there. We've got geo-missionaries who have been in place for much longer than a year. The geo-missionaries in each of these 4 countries do have some overlap in their positions. They are all working with teaching of English language. Remember the meeting of the bishop in Bratislava, what they asked for? We're still delivering on that today. This is what's happening in Central Europe. This is our foot in the door. We have lots of students in these Lutheran, Evangelical Augsburg schools who do not come from Lutheran backgrounds. They come from Catholic families, non-Christian families, atheist families. And yet, in the schools, they're interacting with geo-missionaries who are teaching English. And the geo-missionaries, because it's a Lutheran school, are totally free and encouraged to incorporate faith into their teaching. Imagine that an English language lesson that is salted with a gospel presentation. Imagine that after school, this missionary hangs around, interacts with the kids in the after-school hours doing Bible studies or athletic events. All of these things are taking place because this is why we send the geos, to teach English, to witness to their faith, to proclaim the gospel. And they do this through, oh goodness, AJ. You're going to see a photo of him in a few minutes. Eastern Slovakia. He gets together and plays board games like Risk, Axis and Allies. Have you seen these things? High schoolers love them. And AJ likes to play them. And AJ's a strong Christian. And they're playing their games. He's meeting these kids where they are, and he's witnessing his faith while he's doing that. It's a very unique opportunity. So we have this going on in many places. Moving on. Aha. This is a video. We're going to see how well the sound comes out. I'm not going to preface this. We're just going to watch it. Maybe we'll watch it.
Serving in T-Students, I was actually a religion teacher. I was trained in the States to be a Lutheran high school teacher, and I was able to actually use this teacher training in the city of T-Students working with Slovak students. Typically, it's a very small percentage of them are Lutheran, and even a larger percentage are even non-Christians. It was really a very special moment last night when here they are looking into the camera, and Roman says,
when I came to high school, I was not a believer. I was an atheist, and then when I graduated, I decided to go and study theology.
And to walk in a place where you have kids that really care and are passionate about their faith, and are willing to express that and share that, and they're searching out the Bible.
And then to hear a similar story from his wife.
My parents, even though they're not Christians, they wanted me to go to the school because they wanted me to learn English. And so I did go, and I'm happy that I did, because the biggest change in my life was that I believed in Jesus.
They really are really inquiring about scriptures, and they're just really excited to wrestle with the Word of God.
I think that coming to T-Students for such young missionaries from America is a unique opportunity for their personal spiritual growth, and at the same time they can contribute to the spiritual growth of the students they teach.
They have the desire, they have the heart for it. They just need somebody who's trained to teach them. It's important.
Sorry about the technical difficulties. This is our first time we're doing this presentation. But did you notice who benefits from the geo-missionaries? The students benefit, and the geo-missionaries benefit. The third student, Micah, at the very end said, it's not only the kids, it's not only me, it's not only my classmates. They themselves stand to grow while they're here serving. And this is a huge benefit for our church body, sending these people abroad. I know when Vicky, you were in Poland, when you came back to America after that trip, did you somehow feel more empowered, more able to give witness to your faith here in a land where everybody spoke your language?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. It's always nice to come back and be able to talk and speak English to people after being in a foreign country. Yes.
We get lots of feedback through Jennifer's shop of all the members of short-term teams, and this is one of the comments that keeps coming back up. I went to Poland. I thought I was going to be a major missionary in Poland, and I realized that I was basically unable to do a whole bunch of things there, but when I got back to America, my eyes were opened, and I was able to see the needs of people in my own community, near my home congregation, to whom I can speak very clearly, and it propelled them into mission. There's always at least two people who benefit from the geo-missionaries and from the teams. The people who they reach while they're in the field and the people who they can reach to when they come back home. Central Europe is a wonderful stepping stone into a much larger North American mission field for many people that come and join us in the field. And you saw the first two, Roman and Zuzka. When they came to the school, they were non-believers. Both of them are studying theology in Prague. The purpose of being in ministry for the church. The missionaries sent by the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod to Tisovec, Slovakia have made an impact. And that's just two graduates out of some, goodness, they just celebrated 20 years of ministry. They graduate about 60 kids every year. We've had an impact. LCMS has had a positive impact in this part of the world. Let's take a look. This is a success story right here. I was visiting Tisovec. This is also connected to the school where these three kids graduated. I was visiting Tisovec with Dr. Quill recently and introducing him around to different places where theological education can take place. We stopped in Tisovec because it was en route from point A to point B. And I said to the headmistress, if anything happens this school year and you need somebody to come and help, let me know. A few weeks later, I get this phone call saying I had two missionaries who had to go home from another church body who couldn't get their visas established, so they had to leave overnight. So they left. And she's like, I have two people. Do you have anybody that you can send right now? I was talking with Jennifer about a third person who in the end bailed, couldn't go, but Jennifer said, that position you were talking, was it only for this third person or could somebody else fill it? And I said, well, if somebody else could fill it, sure. She says, well, I've got this great candidate. Let me tell you about him. And it's Andrew Ferry. Andrew thought he was going to be teaching English when he got to Tisovec. Well, look at what he said in his quote. What's he teaching? He was asked to teach religion when he got there. In English, of course. Unlooked for opportunity, and every day, he says, he gets to share the gospel in his classes. I feel kind of part and parcel because this is what I did for a number of years. And this happened immediately. Why? Because the connections that we have. I don't know Andrew from Adam, but I know Jennifer. I know the people who are working here in the office who are doing their jobs and doing them well. And when I say we have this immediate need, there's somebody already there. God provides. He provided Andrew. Andrew is now doing ministry in Tisovec, a place that didn't know they needed somebody until they needed somebody. It's nice that we can fill in quickly. Good success story. Here's AJ. Remember I told you about AJ? He likes to play his board games? This is his principal. The principal of the Lutheran high school where AJ is a teacher. AJ's been in the field since 2009. He's been making some amazing connections that have lasted longer than just a year. And AJ became a geo because he was working in counseling in a large city in the state of Texas, and it was a state agency. And he told me once, he said, "David, I had to quit my job because I knew what the problem was, and the state would not let me tell the kids what the answer was." He's got a degree in counseling, psychology, and here he is teaching English, working with kids, and he knows the answer to the same problems that plague the youth in Texas, that plague the youth in Slovakia, that this world is a broken place that needs a Savior. And he is free to say that in the place where he now works. This is what geos do. So what makes a teacher a Lutheran teacher? This is a great photo because this was taken at a conference in the city of Budapest, Hungary. Every year, the Lutheran schools in Hungary, and there are about 12 of them that are high schools, send an English teacher to Budapest for this conference that is hosted by one of the schools. They invited Radka to come and speak. Radka's a Slovak. Slovaks and Hungarians are kind of like Nebraska and Colorado fans. You know, they just don't get along. But there's something about the English language that they had some nice common ground, and there's something about Christianity and being Lutheran where they had a nice common ground. Radka did a presentation for these 25 teachers who gathered, similar to what she's been doing at missionary orientation for the past couple years, teaching the English language teachers how to salt your lessons, encouraging these teachers to use their faith in the classroom alongside of their subject. These are the connections that the Lord is blessing us and giving us the ability to fill. Sometimes we get to do it ourselves. Most of the time, we need to talk to somebody in St. Louis. Do you have a person? Do you have a team that can fill this need? Vocation, vocation, vocation. Luther would say that you don't need to be a pastor to be a missionary. Luther says to my father, the plumber, "You're a plumber. You do the best you can to the people whose houses you're building in. Don't cheat from them. Don't steal from them. Do your job well as though you're plumbing my house." This is what Luther tells us. This is what vocation is all about. So I'm an English language teacher. What does that have to do with being a missionary? Everything. Because if I can tie my faith life into my teaching of language, that shows me as a whole person, which is what you are when you're a teacher. You're not just the English teacher standing in front of the class. You are a missionary. Anybody recognize this fellow? Dr. Detlev Schultz from Concordia Theological Seminary in Fort Wayne, Indiana. He came out to Central Europe a few months ago. I had him in Slovakia and in Poland and in the Czech Republic talking to groups of people. Here, I believe he was delivering a presentation on baptism, and the two people you see standing there are Polish. The one on this side is the translator. We have invitations from these churches to bring in theological educators. I can't do it. I'm just the connector. I listen to what they ask for. I see if we can find somebody here who can go. And thanks to the visits of Dr. Quill, Dr. Culver, Dr. Schultz, we've met some of those requests. Short-term teams, again, we've got a little bit of a map here, and this is impressive. Since 2009, we've had 31 teams serving in Poland. 31 LCMS teams serving in Poland. Czech Republic, 18 teams. Slovakia, 13 teams. Hungary, 7 teams. So this is since 2008. The Poland stats from 2009 when we started that particular program. The short-term teams do really fun things. They talk about Jesus. It's kind of like a VBS with some English language in it. And remember Zuzka who said, "My parents sent me to the school to learn English"? This is why the parents send the kids to these events, so they can work on their English. And what do they get along with that? The gospel. The fun part is again, it's not just the kids. Each of these hosting locations sends a crew of adults or college or high school age people to join with the American missionaries. The missionaries get to witness to these older people as well, who are in their formative years. Together, they work with the little kids. And that's a huge additional layer to what goes on with the short-term teams. And this pastor, he's not a pastor, sorry, he's a DCE. He's from Southern California, named Jim Meyer. He came with 2 other adults and a group full of high school students. They led a sport-based camp in southern Slovakia, one of the most economically depressed portions of the country. And they came there with a hopeful news. Hopeful news about who Christ is, why it matters. And they played soccer and football and baseball, talked about English, talked about the gospel, together with volunteers from Slovakia. And if you look really closely, I'm not sure if I can find her or not, one of my graduates from EGT was a volunteer at this camp. I came there to visit the team the day they arrived, and I saw Anichka. I'm like, Anichka, what are you doing here? Mr. Fiala! Pastor Ivan, he's my uncle. I had no idea. And here she is, someone who I had mentored and taught English and religion, who was serving as a translator for an LCMS team, doing evangelism to local Slovak kids. It gets circular eventually. The longer you stay in it, the longer you can see these connections, and it's just plain fun. I'm going to do one really quick piece here about Hungary. These 3, the 2 on this side, the ladies, they're already serving in Hungary. The guy on this side, he's coming in. He was just placed. All 3 of these are Concordia University Irvine graduates. All 3 of these people have served on Irvine's short-term teams in Hungary. Every 2 years, they send a sports camp group to Hungary. And they've been doing this since '94, perhaps. The alumni of their short-term program have grown up into geo-missionaries. Sarah and Melissa, the 2 ladies on the left, each spent 2 summers in Hungary as short-termers before they signed up as geos. Well, the 2 of them put their heads together and said, you know, it's wonderful that we have these events in the summertime, and it's wonderful that we're placed in schools. Can we do something else? Can we do something more? So last month, they organized a retreat on Lake Balaton. It's as close as you can get to a beach in Hungary. It's this lake that resembles the Platte River. It's like a mile wide and about an inch deep. It's a beautiful place. They brought alumni students of the summer camps there for a retreat from 2 different Lutheran schools in Hungary for a weekend. And they went through a lot of things about transitioning in life, going, I'm just a believer, to I'm a believer who's going to become very active in my faith. They wanted to nurture that seed that had been planted years ago, and these were kids who they met when the kids were like 8th graders. And now they are upperclassmen. They're continuing that journey of faith with these people who are their students. And they're always asking, what else can we do? And Ben, who's coming in, he was the student coordinator of last summer's Hungary initiatives from University in Irvine. I'm looking forward to the impact he's going to make with his background already. And he's going to a new location in Hungary that LCMS has never sent a geo-missionary to before. It's a school way down south, almost on the Romanian border, 60,000 people in the town. It's a county seat town. There's over 6,000 high school students in the town because people send their kids into the town, to the city, where they can get a good education, then they commute home to the villages. When I was there snooping out this location as a place to place a geo, I asked the principal, I said, what do you think would happen if the other schools in town discovered that you have a native speaker? Do you think they would want him to come into their schools? Yeah. And could he do that? Oh yeah, he could do that. And then he could invite those kids to attend like the Lutheran youth events that are taking place at the local Lutheran congregation. Oh yeah. In addition to working with the kids in your Lutheran school. Yeah. Huge opportunities are waiting. And if this face doesn't say, come to Central Europe, I don't know what does. These are the kids you get to interact with when you're there. I got one final story to talk about, and this is huge, and the slide says it all. We're talking about the Silesian Evangelical Church of the Augsburg Confession. Right now they have 21 congregations. They have a 10-year mission goal of planting 20 more. Huge connection opportunity. Absolutely enormous. Can we do something with them? They're actually a limited partner church, one of 2 in Central Europe. Can we do something with them? We have been. We've been sending geo-missionaries there. We have 2 geo-missionaries there right now. We have 1 more that will arrive at the middle of the month. One of them is specifically working with this mission project. They want to plant churches. I love these communist-looking apartment buildings and this little church right in the middle of it, because this is what it's going to look like. Of course, they won't be in that little building. It's a little Catholic building. But this is the idea. You plant something, and it's kind of small when it starts, but it grows. And we do have that good news. We do have the seed. What more do we need? You got to water it. We got to send people who are going to proclaim the word. Who's that going to be? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? That's what it's about. This is Paul. That's what Paul has to say. The gospel is what's going to get it done. Not me, not you, the gospel. But somebody's got to speak it. Somebody's got to put it in print. Somebody's got to share it. This is why we are in Central Europe as missionaries. This is what we do. Got any questions? If you're ready to get involved, here's how you can contact me. I'd love to hear from you. Questions? Yeah.
You know, one of the stories that Randy and I still share today is the story of Daniel and his wife and their unfinished house. Has their house been finished?
Not yet.
Would you
Not yet.
mind sharing that story? Do we have time?
Okay, it'll be quick. Pastor Daniel is a friend of mine in Silesia. He's a trained pastor of their church. He and his wife started to build a house. And halfway, 3/4 of the way through the house, they got to a point where they went, wait a minute, we're sinking a lot of our own money into this. They stopped building their house. It sits there in this process of unbuiltness. They started saving and pooling their money, and they started a foundation that would generate interest, that this interest could be used to help support mission activity. And his house still sits there unfinished. These people are invested into their own mission projects. It's not just dollars coming from LCMS assisting. These people have sunk everything into it themselves. That, to me, is an amazing cooperator in the mission field. And he's got 2 small boys. They're younger than Vasek. That was a tough choice on his part.
Any other questions? Great. Well, let's thank David. You're going to be around for a while?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
He's going to be around if you want to come up and talk a little bit more. He's got lots of stuff around. Anything you want to highlight here? Any of the goodies?
Well, for instance, this book here, this was published by the Lutheran high school where AJ is teaching, celebrating 15 years of ministry. I was just invited to the 20th anniversary of ministry in Tisovec, the 20th anniversary of ministry in Győr, Hungary, where Sarah is serving as a missionary. Every time I go to these things, they thank me as though I am somehow the ultimate representative of the LCMS who has walked with them during those years of ministry. Which means I need to say thank you to you for helping to send people there, because it's not just me who deserves the thanks. So wonderful stories, wonderful books. I think this one's even a little bit bilingual, some English in there, but the green one here on the table, it literally in Polish it says forest churches. During the Counter-Reformation, the Lutheran Poles had to go out in the woods to have worship services. They've found hollow trees stuffed with hymnals over the years. And this is a book that shows, I think, 8 or 10 of the locations where they have found that the Lutherans used to go and hide from the Catholics during the Counter-Reformation. These people have roots to the Reformation. And here they are asking us for help. It's really a wonderful thing to be with them in ministry.